The Snow Canyon Warriors get the win in the state championship game for girls soccer. Volleyball playoffs are going on today at Utah Valley University. The battle for the axe was this weekend and so much more in this episode of Southern Utah Sports Report. Welcome on in, everybody. Caden Formaster here with you for Southern Utah Sports Report. Welcome on into the show. This is a podcast all about Southern Utah sports. We're giving you updates on everything going on in Southern Utah. So subscribe wherever it is that you find your podcasts. And we do play this back on the radio. If you're listening on the radio, go find a Southern Utah Sports Report. You can look it up at thefansportsnetwork.com as well. Wherever you find your podcast, search for the Fan Sports Network or Southern Utah Sports Report, and that'll get you in the right place to find us and listen into everything going on with Southern Utah sports. All right, let's get things started today. We are talking about Snow Canyon. Snow Canyon girls soccer, they get the win in the championship game over Ridgeline, the number one team in the state of Utah. The Warriors were able to get it done in a shootout, winning 5-4 in the shootout after going 3-3 into overtime and no goals in overtime. But man, oh man, was this a game. This was an amazing game. Snow Canyon, winning a championship is a mixture of so many things. It's a mixture of talent, hard work, dedication, and then sometimes you can throw in a little bit of luck. And I will admit, there was a little bit of luck in this game. Ridgeline scored an own goal. Okay, gave the Warriors a goal. And listen, you take that. If a team is going to make mistakes on your behalf, you don't argue with that. You take it and you roll with it because that's still part of the game, okay? You're not supposed to make mistakes. Ridgeline made a mistake, and it cost them a championship. So Snow Canyon says, thank you very much, and you get that win. Now, there were times in overtime where Snow Canyon had a chance to close this one out. There was a point, I want to say it was in the second overtime, where there was a free kick right in front of the goal. And I want to say it was Lottie Smith that took this free kick and was so close. The goalie read it really well. It ended up going into a corner kick, and the corner kick ended up getting cleared out and then ended up with a goal kick. So the Warriors weren't able to capitalize in that moment, but man, it just felt like they had some momentum, some major momentum in overtime. Couldn't quite get it done there, but they got it done in shootouts. Snow Canyon is 10-0 when it comes to overtime games, and the reason being is because they were very good at shootouts, and this was exactly the case here. So congrats to them on that. This was not just a fantastic game, but a fantastic season. Congrats to Snow Canyon on a fantastic season. To the seniors who have been a part of this, who went to the state championship game as freshmen. This has been such a big, not just year, but we'll just say career as well for a lot of those Snow Canyon Warriors seniors. I know that it's always tough to see your seniors go, but what a way to go out, winning the state championship against the number one team in the state of Utah. So fantastic game there for Snow Canyon, and they claim one of the many championships that are going to be on the table here in fall sports. There are so many championships going on, even just this week. We had obviously soccer last week. We've got cross country coming up as well. Plus, we've got volleyball this week. So there's a lot to get to there. There's a lot of exciting things coming up here in this realm right now of just championships. It's the fall sport playoff championship season, right? So let's dive on into it. Let's talk volleyball for just a moment. Volleyball is going on today up at UVU. So Utah Valley University, that's going to be the home, and it already was the home earlier for our 2A teams as well, which, by the way, Enterprise here in Southern Utah did go to the state championship game. They lost it in 4 sets, couldn't get it done there. North Summit ends up going away with the state championship, and Enterprise comes in second. So shout out to another one of our fellow Southern Utah teams. This is the Southern Utah Sports Report, not necessarily Region 9, but we'll give them some love there to Enterprise as they came up just short in the state championship game. But I know that the Wolves are happy to have made it that far, and they played really well this season as well. So let's talk a little bit about the schedule coming up for today. Okay, so on your screens, those of you watching it on YouTube, we're going to take a look here at what this looks like for today. So 3:30 today is going to be the first round of the top half of the bracket. So this is going into, Orem Uinta. You got the number 1 versus the number 16. Okay, great. I know not a lot of people are going to be in on that one. That's fair. Cedar Hurricane, however, fantastic matchup. We got a nice little Region 9 v Region 9 going on there, which is always exciting. So get ready for that one. That's going to be, again, 3:30. And then it'll be followed up with Crimson Cliffs and Skyview. That's going to be going on at the same time. And then you got Mountain View versus Mountain Crest. So all of these games going on at the same time. If you haven't ever watched volleyball, state volleyball, the way it works is they have 4 courts going at the exact same time. Now, there's no commentary on the games, but you can watch these over at kslsports.com. And they will have scoreboard and everything like that. So you can still follow along pretty easily. There just won't be commentary on it. The way that this is going to work is Hurricane and Cedar are going to be on court 1. Skyview and Crimson Cliffs are on court 4. So they're on the opposite sides of the gym. They're going to be on the ends. Court 2 and 3 are in the middle. That's Mountain View and Mountain Crest on court 3. And then Orem and Uinta on court 4. All right, then we move on to the next slate of games. That's going to be the 5 o'clock start. And that's going to be Desert Hills Park City at court number 2. You will have Dixie and Ridgeline over on court number 1. Then Green Canyon and Snow Canyon will be on court 3, and Pineview and Provo on court 4. That's how it's all going to be set up for that second half of the second round. That'll be at 5 o'clock. So everybody's going to be playing twice. If you win, you play twice today. And I know these games start late in the afternoon at 3:30 and at 5, but those teams that start at 3:30, if they get a win, they'll move on and play at 6:30 tonight, like the very next slate. So they'll have 1 game's rest in between. The teams that played at 5 o'clock will get to rest during those 6:30 games, and then they've got to go get ready to play at 8 o'clock tonight. So kind of a late start tonight, and then it'll be back at it again the next day. Now, teams that make it on to the quarterfinal round, even if they lose, they will still play tomorrow. If they lose in the quarterfinals, they will still play. If they lose in this first round coming up this afternoon, they're done. Losing in the second half in the quarterfinal round, which are the games this evening, starting at 6:30 and at 8 o'clock. If you lose, you still get to play. Winners, of course, are going to be playing. So the way that it's set up for tomorrow, just to give you a little bit of an idea there, is an 11:45 start tomorrow morning. Okay, there's going to be 2 games played at 11:45, and then there's going to be a few games played at 1 o'clock p.m., followed by a pretty quick turnaround at 2:15. There's going to be a matchup for the 5th and 7th place teams to battle out between who's going to be 5th and 7th. And then there's also going to be a battle between 3rd and 4th. All that's going on at the same time. Then we've got a championship round at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. I know that's very confusing. Okay, it's very confusing. We do have the actual bracket with all of these times, everything over on the fansportsnetwork.com. So just go to the show notes for today's show. Just look for the Southern Utah Sports Report for 1027. Southern Utah Sports Report 1027. You're going to figure all this stuff out by doing that, by just seeing what they have going on there. So that's what we have with volleyball. It's exciting. It's just there's a lot to try to cover there. And we'll be able to get into more details as we get closer to championships and things like that. And we'll see if one of our Southern Utah teams makes it to the championship game. Football updates. Desert Hills and Crimson Cliffs. Desert Hills and Dixie went on the road this last week, and they both came up short. Did not win this week, so their football seasons are done. Desert Hills and Dixie are done with their football seasons as of Friday night, since they were not able to get the wins. Dixie went to Highland up in Salt Lake, and Highland got out to a really, really quick start, and they just kind of put pedal to the metal and kept it there. 42 to 14 was the final score between Highland and Dixie. So Highland's actually going to be coming down here to play Hurricane this Friday. As of right now, scheduled times for Friday games are going to be 4 o'clock p.m. Keep that in mind. And again, Hurricane is going to be facing off against Highland, who beat Dixie. And so Dixie's lost out, and they're done with their season. Desert Hills went up to Green Canyon, which this was a battle. This was a good game. It was 0-0 at halftime. Yeah, this was a defensive game. It was tied up at 3 at a certain point. Both teams got some field goals in, but Green Canyon was able to get a touchdown in the fourth quarter and that sealed it. It was a 10-3 game. And so Green Canyon's going to be coming down to face off against Snow Canyon. And we're still figuring out exactly where we're going to be broadcasting. With the fan, we only have 2 broadcasting crews, but there's going to be 4 games down here in southern Utah. So we're going to do our best to try to cover as much as we possibly can and try to get the games broadcast to you in some way. And so that's the plan as of right now. So just keep in mind, we're going to be doing what we can. Tentatively, we're looking at Hurricane and Snow Canyon. Those are the 2 places we're looking at being right now. That could change, but I think that's where we're going to try to be for right now. Hurricane and Snow Canyon, which would be Hurricane Highland, Snow Canyon, Green Canyon. Pineview got the bye. They're going to be hosting this week as well against Skyline. We'll talk more about all these games coming up on Friday, so I won't dive into it too much. Then, of course, Crimson Cliffs gets a bye. They're taking on number 15, Timpanogos. All of that going on Halloween night. So potentially Halloween afternoon, 4 o'clock. That's the scheduled games right now. It's 4 o'clock on Halloween. So keep that in mind. We'll be talking more about that coming up at a later date. All right, let's move on to Saturday night right here in Southern Utah, Greater Zion Stadium. SUU wins the battle for the Axe. SUU got off to a pretty quick start. First thing right away, they go down, they march down, they score a touchdown. Turn around. Utah Tech's on offense. First play of the game on offense for Utah Tech. It's a pick. Throws an interception. And SU's able to capitalize again with field goal. And so they scored a 2-point conversion on the first play, or first touchdown as well. So it ended up being an 11-0 game pretty quickly. That's where things started out, was 11-0. The defense stepped up for Utah Tech at that point, but it felt like the offense was still just a little sluggish. They struggled through the majority of this game. And by the time they got into halftime, still 11-0. That second quarter was just a defensive battle, a lot of going back and forth. There were 2 opportunities for some field goals for Utah Tech. Both of those opportunities doinked. Yeah, we had a double doinker going on Saturday. And so neither of those field goals made it in. I was actually on the sidelines for this game. I was on the Utah Tech sideline, so I was hanging out with the team over there. And man, I got to say, their kicker, Ilya Uvedov, was not having it. He was very upset, and I get it. You know, you miss 2 field goals. That's always rough. It's rough to miss 1, let alone 2 in a row. And the way that he missed 2 in a row, listen, I've never seen 2 kicks hit off a field goal posts, one right after the other. That's probably more difficult to do, actually. And obviously wasn't trying for it, but yeah, it was rough. It was rough. I felt for the kid. It's not a good spot to be in, but they were able to get a score on the board in the 4th. At that point, the game felt like it was pretty wrapped up. SUU also had a 93-yard touchdown run in that time. Joshua Dye, 92 yards to be more specific. 92 yards with Joshua Dye. He had quite the game. He had 3 touchdowns himself. So shout out to Joshua Dye for that. And yeah, what a game it was by SUU. And they win the Axe, man. It's battle for the Axe, and they took the Axe home. So congrats to SUU. They got it this time around. And in the atmosphere of it being a rivalry game, they got the win. So congrats to them. And that's now their 3rd win of the season. So this is a much-needed win for them. Utah Tech still looking for another one. They got 1 win earlier on in the season, but trying to get another one here. They will have a game coming up this weekend against North Alabama. It's another home game. 2 o'clock on Saturday. So stay tuned for that one. We'll see. We'll get that one for you right here on the radio on the Fan Sports Network at 2 o'clock p.m. So be prepared for that. All right. More SEU Utah Tech news. There's a few things going on this weekend. We won't dive into it too much, but just to give you some of the updates there for Utah Tech first. So there was volleyball, which volleyball lost 3 sets to Utah Valley, which is so rare for them. It's a great volleyball team, and they fell. They did not get the win against Utah Valley. So a couple of losses now for this Utah Tech volleyball team. They've got to get back on track into the latter part of this season. There's only a few games left, so they're trying to continue to push forward and get some of those wins going, but it's been tough. Their next game is Saturday against SUU, actually, and it's here in St. George, November 1st in St. George against SUU. Then we move to men's soccer. Men's soccer had a great win, 2-1 win over ranked Cal Baptist, number 25th ranked team in the country. and they were able to get the win over Cal Baptist. So big win for Utah Tech in men's soccer. They've been pretty fun this year. Pretty good team in men's soccer. So I've been very impressed with what they've done this year. Tons of ties. If you could count up the ties as wins, this would be a fantastic, very good winning team. They have won some good games, don't get me wrong, but some of those ties I'm sure they would love to have back as actual wins. Utah Valley is going to be coming up on Friday, Halloween night, 6 o'clock p.m. at Greater Zion Stadium. So if you're looking for something fun to do on Halloween that's not really Halloween related, you could go to a soccer game against Utah Valley right here in St. George Greater Zion Stadium. All right, let's go to the Utah Mammoth. Now, Utah Mammoth have gone 7-0 since their home opener. They're the number one team right now in the NHL, which, for those of you who've been following along with the NHL and with Mammoth hockey, you probably would look at this and be like, that was not expected. And it wasn't. It wasn't. Nobody's expecting the Utah Mammoth to be as good as they have been. But they have been, which is fantastic. I know that there's a lot of fans, myself included. I've been following the Mammoth a lot since they came in as the Utah Hockey Club, now the Mammoth, of course. And so it's been fun to watch how well they are playing, first off, but just to see the growth in general of this team. And that goes to not just the players who came over from Arizona, but also the growth of the roster. Some of the guys that have been coming in the offseason and whatnot. So that's cool to see that this team is starting to come together. They're starting to click, and they've got a game tomorrow, but then it's going to be a little bit of a break. They won't play again until Sunday. So a win tomorrow could be huge for them as they'll go into a break and get some well-needed rest. But again, they're 7-0. So as of right now, 16 points on the season, which puts them number one in the West. And the only other team to score 16 is the New Jersey Devils. So they are right there in the top of the NHL. They look like a playoff team. I would be, at this point, I am a little surprised if they're not a playoff team with how well they've played for the last few games. They definitely look like a major threat. And as of right now, I would put them, I'm not saying they're a favorite to win the Stanley Cup. I don't want to say that yet. It's too early in the season for that, but they're definitely a favorite to be in the playoffs. That's an easy spot to put them in, for sure. One of the top teams in the Central Division, if not one of the top teams in the West, which is awesome. So Vegas Golden Knights. Let's talk about the Knights for just a minute before we wrap things up here on the show. So they fall to the Lightning in overtime. 2-1 was the game. The Knights had to call up their goalie as well. So the goalie that they had in this game against the Lightning, brand new, first NHL game for Carl Lindbaum is his name. Swedish kid. So just 22 years old, which is wild to me that we have kids that were born in 2003 playing professional sports, but it's going on all over the place nowadays, and it's strange to see, but it's good. Hey, you know what? You got to train these guys up at some point. So, but for Vegas Golden Knights, they've had their fair share of struggles here in the last few weeks, the last few games, whatever you want to call it. They're still one of the toughest teams. I would say that they are one of the favorites to go out there and win a Stanley Cup this year, especially from the West. So I think that holds true, even if they haven't played fantastic in a few games recently. Now, they did have some good wins throughout there, right? They had a good win against the Bruins. They had a huge win against the Hurricanes, but then they come up short in this Florida stretch. They lost 3-0 to the Panthers, losing 2-1 to the Lightning, and now they're back in Carolina to take on the Hurricanes. And so we'll see how they do on the road. Then they've got a tough one at home against the Avalanche on Halloween night. That's not going to be easy either. So the Golden Knights, a little bit of a tough stretch right here, trying to get back onto a winning track. Here's the thing. They're top of the Pacific Division. So even though they've been losing a few games, these overtime losses help because they still give you a point. But they want to get further ahead. They're at 13 points right now, still first in the Pacific Division, but they're trying to get a little bit more rolling. So we'll see how they do coming up. All right, everybody, that will wrap it up. The Southern Utah Sports Report here with the Fan Sports Network. I've been Caden Formaster. Thank you for joining us. Subscribe to the podcast wherever it is that you find your podcast. You can subscribe to our YouTube page and find it there. You can watch the show over there. You can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, wherever it is that you listen to your podcast. And if you're a radio listener, go find us so you don't miss out on an episode. This is an on-demand Southern Utah show. So if you're looking for an on-demand form of Southern Utah sports entertainment, this is that show for you. and tune into it. We try to do this just about every single day if I can. It just kind of depends on if there's news. If there's stuff to talk about, we'll do a show. So plain and simple. All right. Thank you for joining me today. And until next time, we'll see you.